In today's show, I'm going to do a full mechanical overhaul on a TC630. This is a Sony reel-to-reel machine, 3-head, 3-speed with echo, and this one required extensive work on the mechanism to get it freed up and working. Let's take a look at this one. Like the last one, I'm going to inspect this one first before doing anything. You know, this one's got a multi-input selector. It's got a phono, tuner, auxiliary, and mic input. So you can select your mic inputs, and on the side here, you've got a phono input, a tuner, and an auxiliary input, a line output, and speaker outputs, as this unit does have a built-in amplifier that you would plug in speakers to. You plug your headphones into here, your main power switch, it's got noise reduction. Here's your record level controls. To record on this, you just pull both the switches down and turn it into forward, just like the other one. This one's got an SOS for sound on sound, either left over right or right over left. You turn it on and off here. And this one has built-in echo, which is kind of cool. So you have a mixer that you can create your own echo effects. First tape recorder I ever had experience with was one of these. I never owned one, but my neighbor, who's been dead for 25 years or so now, he was a professional studio musician and worked on countless record albums in his career in the 1950s and 60s as a musician. He had one of these in his studio in his house, right next to his baby grand piano and a couple microphones, and he used to do his own little gigs, his own personal stuff. He recorded direct to tape on one of these machines. In fact, the only time I ever recorded anything of my own, because I played guitar back when I was a kid, the only time I ever was recorded on one of these machines. The same model as this, so a little bit of history on that. It's kind of a cool machine. Let's take the head cover off here and take a look at the heads on this one. We'll see, first of all, before I even get into this, how bad this one is. Looks like the mechanism is not gummed up on this one like it was on the other. So you've got an erase head, a record head, and a playback head. Here's the capstan shaft and the pinch roller. And as you can see, this one's not all gummed up. So this one might not need a lot of servicing. It may just need to be lubricated, and hopefully I can do it without having to take the thing into a million pieces. Okay, well, the capstan shaft is not turning. So we know that we've got a problem on this one to start. Rewind works. That idler is noisy, but the capstan shaft is completely seized up. So this one is going to require a major restoration. Let's get started. So first things first, we'll remove the main control knob. There we go. And we'll remove the tape speed selector. And now, like the other one, I should be able to just remove the screws here, the 4 screws here, that screw, and these 2, and the mechanism should come apart just like on the other Sony. This is going to be exactly the same layout for this mechanism as the other one, as all these old Sonys were built basically the same way, the difference being this is a 3-head deck, the other one was a 2. But other than that, these units here are identical. Are pretty darn close. Little difference in the power amp and the record play amps, because the other one uses the combination record play, and this one here is going to have separate playback circuits. Okay, now the top cover lifts off. So here's our mechanism again, all gummed up. So like the other one, I'm going to have to take this one apart to free everything up here. I'll have to put some oil on the tires here and put some oil on this bearing. This bearing, as you can see, is just totally gummed up. So let's remove the head plate assembly. Looks like this has been taken out before because that paint is not, that paint has been cracked. So this one's been serviced before. I'm just going to remove this nut here so that I can lift the mechanism off without having to disassemble it from behind. Need to get the bearing retainer off of here so that I can remove the capstan shaft from the back. Of course it's going to crumble. It's rubber. Oh well, it's not needed. Okay, now I should be able to pull the bearing out here. Rotate it a bit. Give it a pull and it should just come out. And as you can see, it's seized up pretty good. So we got to wash all this dried grease out of here and re-lubricate this bearing, and hopefully that's all that this unit is going to need. We'll put some oil on this the shaft here for the pinch arm. I shouldn't have to take this one all apart though because it's not seized up. I should be able to get in there and just put some lubricant into this bearing and it should be fine. But this one here, definitely got to clean the flywheel up on there because it was frozen solid. So we'll clean this with isopropyl first of all, and then lubricate it and see what else this thing needs. I don't see any scoring on the bearing here. A little bit of wear. There's a little bit of wear right here. But I think we're probably okay. I don't see any major scoring on here. And people might wonder what this little pad here is there for. That's so that if any lubricant leaks out and starts to work its way along, this will absorb it before it actually gets onto the flywheel and gets onto the outer surface of the flywheel and causes the rubber tire to slip. The same as right here. Okay, that one is done. We'll just do the inner bearing here. Try to clean the crud out of that one inside here. Yeah, beauty, huh? This is a really, it's not bad shape, it's just, it's been sitting around for a while, right? So what's happened is the lubricant has just gotten very dry, but it doesn't look like it's been operated much, if any, with it running in this dry state, or we would have seen a lot more scoring on the bearing surface and on the actual capstan shaft itself, which I don't see any, which is good, because that means we probably got this before it got too bad. There's grease on the back here, which is probably okay. Okay, there's grease on here, but there's actually a it's not metal against metal. There's actually looks like a plastic base here that the actual capstan bearing, the back of the bearing rubs up against. So it's not actually making contact with metal. It's actually against that. I guess it's probably a nylon or some type of plastic bearing. Okay, that's taken care of. We're going to lubricate this, even though it's not showing any problems. We're going to lubricate that as well. So like the other one, I need to take the spring off here and take the pinch roller off completely. Ah, son of a, come on, get through there, damn it. There we go. That's what we do to take that off. Now, this can drop straight down. Alright, I gotta take this, I forgot about that. I gotta remove this one screw off here and remove this tape bracket, because that is going to hold it in place. There. Now it should pop out a little easier. So as you can see, even though this bearing had not seized up and it was still raising and lowering the pinch roller, trying to get it off the shaft the grease was just about completely shot. So a little shot of WD-40 into the bearing, let it penetrate in, and that'll make this a relatively simple matter to get this one apart. Now this definitely needed to be done because it would have completely seized up in not too distant future. The evil concrete grease. Now one has to also be careful when doing this because you don't want to bend that shaft that it's on, and you don't want to scratch it or score it. So you're going to have to slowly work any penetrating oil in to try and free it up and just remove it slowly. And because if that post gets scored, it's going to cause future problems. And this cast metal arm here is that same crap that has the tendency to break. It's not a cast metal part. It's more of a pressed, stamped metal part. So they are brittle. So you don't want to put any lateral pressure on that aluminum arm because that will break. It's very soft material. was getting pretty gummed up. That would have been not that long before this thing went bad. If you're wondering what I'm using to clean this one, I'm using WD-40 on a Q-tip. Just because it's a pretty good cleaner. It will remove the old crap as good as anything else. Now I'll re-lubricate the bearing here. Put some oil on here. Do the same for the capstan bearing here. We'll clean that up here for the capstan shaft and re-lubricate that one as well, because it's also not in great shape. Now I can put this back together. Much better. Much better. That is how it's supposed to be. This is the hardest part, getting this piece back together, because of course there's a spring that's working against you that's trying to push everything you're putting in place. There's a spring that's trying to push it out of the way. So you got to kind of hold the spring in place while you get the clip on, and then do a balancing act. Keep everything in place while you get the pliers in there and clip the clip back in place. And again, do this all while this mechanism is trying to push everything away. But not that difficult. Okay, this is now back together. I just have to put the spring back on, and I can start to put the mechanism back together. Put some oil right on the flywheel bearing. That goes on there like that first. Okay, now it goes in here. I'll let you guys in on a future project I just picked up today. An old radio. It's sitting on the workbench, or not on the workbench, but sitting next to my workbench. It's an old Stromberg Carlson. This is a floor radio, a big one. It would be, I'm gonna date it probably early 30s, I'm gonna say. I think it's probably from the early 30s there. That's nice and quiet, like it's supposed to be. Anyway, I will be doing a full restoration on that one soon. I just picked it up today. Was working at a client's house last week. And they told me they had this radio. Asked me if I knew of anybody who collects radios. And I said, well, actually, I know someone who collects radios and restores them. Me. So they asked me if I'd like to buy it. And I looked at it. I said, you know what? I think I'd like it. So I struck up a deal. And now it's mine. But before that thing gets any power cords anywhere near it, it needs to have the all the capacitors have to be replaced in it. So now I got to put this tape pad on. The pads are falling off this one, so it's going to need new tape pads, I think. But we'll put this piece back in here. So let's see what happens when I turn this on now. I just did something ridiculously stupid on this thing. I forgot to clean the grease and stuff that I had on my hands when I was handling the flywheel before I turned the thing on. And I've just created a mess. I've got lubricant on the back of this stupid flywheel. And it's probably now onto the rubber rollers, and I'll clean this all off. That's better. That's a little better. Okay. I'm going to lubricate these bearings here now while I'm at it, and then we will test this thing. Anyway, we'll pull the bearing cap off here. Clean up this bearing. Okay, put the bearing cap back on. We're also going to do this one here, this bearing. Okay, I think we'll test this out now and see how it does. See what more I need to do to this thing to make it work. But I'll thread my tape up. And see whether it plays anything. Okay, don't need the power amp on. I'll turn that off. Source is tape. And let's see whether it plays. Oh, you know what? It's not going to play because I didn't thread this under the power lever. Okay, now we'll see if it plays. Oh, I haven't hooked up the pause lever yet either. We better do that. Sounds good though.
Tick tock, 6 o'clock, there's that old alarm again. Stand up, eyes shut, wishing I was sleeping in. Don't know how I do it, but somehow I do it every day. Just the same. Get dressed, still a mess, shuffle through the same routine. White tee, blue jeans, looking at me beckoning. Get myself together, come whatever, just like yesterday and every other day. As I rush by, the mirror catches my eye, and just guess who's smiling back at me. So today, no matter what comes my way, gotta turn it into something I can celebrate. I'm gonna give the world a shake with a smile. There's nothing that can knock me down. I'm gonna take whatever comes around with a smile.
So this unit's actually sounding pretty good. We're going to do a recording on it obviously too. I'm just going to plug my little music box in, my music player, and see which input we'll plug it into. I guess we'll plug it into the auxiliary input. Then we can play around with features such as the echo on this thing. Better not do that. Auxiliary input, source, and those controls probably could use to be cleaned. We'll take care of that. Yep, definitely needs cleaning. Let's just get some contact cleaner in here. Got the output reversed. So let's record. So I'll hit record. I wonder if I should do the same song as before. Maybe I'll do the same song as before. Song track number 268. So we'll do the same track as before. I've armed this for recording. Now, like all Sonys, we have to kind of cue this thing up and let the capstan get up to speed, otherwise it's going to start slowly. You always got to do this on the Sonys because, of course, the flywheel is not running until you engage the drive mode. So I'll start this playing and I'll hit my track skip and record. Whoa, way too loud for my levels. We can play around with the echo on this thing too, right?
Tick tock, 6 o'clock, there's that old alarm again. Stand up, eyes shut, wishing I was sleeping in. Don't know how I do it, but somehow I do it every day. Just to say, get dressed in a mess, shuffle through the city, white tee, blue jeans, looking at the back. Get myself together, come whatever, just like yesterday.
Kind of a cool feature.
Everybody's getting in, left, right, squeeze tight. Here's a 9 to 5 again, just another day. But today I'm gonna make a change, break the chain, make my mind up. This is something special. Take the ordinary, gonna make it monumental with a smile.
Ah, that's kind of cool. So this machine is working. Oh, cool. Okay, you can get silly with the echo. You guys get the picture. That switch needs to be cleaned. So these switches need to be cleaned down in here too. I'm too lazy to take it apart, so I can get into the switches that way. Okay, let's rewind this tape. We'll take a listen to my masterpiece that I remixed with a bunch of echo. Well, we heard what it's going to sound like because, of course, we were listening to the playback head. What echo does when you're in tape mode is it'll take your output and has a mix control to feed it back into the record circuit, which was kind of a first. This tape recorder had that, and I remember I thought it was so cool when my neighbor that had one with his little in-house studio had one, and I thought this was the bomb. This was the coolest tape deck I'd ever seen in my life. I wanted one of these things so bad, but I never got one. I ended up with an Akai 1710 instead of one of these when I really wanted one of these. But as I say, I ended up with an Akai 1710. And then I bought a GX260, which was a 6-head. And I've serviced that one before. It probably needs to be serviced again. Maybe we'll do another video on it, because the first time I serviced it, I didn't do a full video on the recapping of the motors and stuff. But I didn't put the right values of components in it. I went down to a shop, and I went down to a now closed shop and bought my AC capacitors, and they assured me that they gave me these little Mylar ones and said, oh, these are exactly the same. And no, they're not. I need an oil-filled cap for the run capacitor for the motor. So it works, but it doesn't have as much torque as it's supposed to. So I'm going to redo it again and put the right parts in it this time, because I did that about 10 years ago. I guess, something like that. I've serviced it on my channel because one time when I turned it on, it went pop, and I found a short and fixed that, but I haven't recapped it, so we'll be doing that again at some point. But anyway, let's play back my recording here. See, these things take a second to get up to speed. That was me adjusting the levels.
I was sleeping in. Don't know how I do it, but somehow I do it every day. Just to say, get dressed in.
Of course, I've only tested it at the 1 speed. If I change the speed down here and go to 3 3/4 and see how that one works. Oh, I have a feeling that, oh, where are my idlers sticking? What's going on here? This is sticking, I think. Good thing I checked that. This lever here is supposed to slide down and it's stuck. We'll have to unstick that bracket. Good thing I checked that. Well, more work to do on this thing. Actually, right here, that this pivot is sticking. Right, see? That pivot is sticking. So, that's going to be a relatively easy fix. We'll take care of that one right now. Looking for my little red screwdriver, which has found its way underneath the deck. Okay, let me just pop this out. No, I didn't lose the clip, it's right here. But yeah, it did jump at me. That's what I hate about spring-loaded things. Okay, that is, I think it's underneath here that it's gummed. It's this one right down here. I'm just going to remove my tape here so it doesn't get damaged. This arm is stuck right there, you see. That's really stiff, so we're gonna get some lube in there. I'll put some oil on that. I don't want to spray any WD-40 or anything around there because I don't want to get it on the actual tire. So I'm just going to put a drop of oil in there. It's a little different way of applying oil, so that I don't get it on anything but what I want it on. So just put some oil on this Q-tip, as I don't want to get any oil onto the actual idler itself. Okay, that's better. Now this has got to go on the other side of this lever over here. Lift this up. Go behind that lever. There, that's a little better. Okay, now put the spring and the clip back on here and try not to lose it. There we go. Okay, that should work better. Ah, much better. Excellent. Let's thread the tape back up and see what it does. Okay, let's just see how much faster this comes up to speed now that the grease has been, or the lubricant's been fixed on this idler. Ah, that's better. Okay, 3 3/4. That's a little better. 1 7/8. Yeah, a lot of torque now. A lot of torque now. The reason why my tape is kind of curling a bit is because there's 2 tape guides that are part of the front cover that hold the tape out like this, right? So with the cover off it, I'm not getting the right angle on my take-up. So don't be concerned with that, because I think that will go away once I get the cover back on, which I'll be putting the cover back on this thing momentarily. I'm just making sure that everything's working properly. And then I'm going to put the front cover back on it and we'll do some more testing. Okay, I'm going to make a recording at 3 3/4 now. That one's good enough. Okay, 3 3/4, 0 the counter, record, and roll. We can listen to playback if we want. You'll hear the difference, eh? With the tape speed slower, the highs won't be quite as sharp. When I go to tape mode, source, Okay, we're going to switch this down to 1 7/8 now, and we'll pick another song. Maybe even the same song. Yeah, we'll pick the same song. Okay, record. And we'll just hit the back button here and do the same track. Now you'll really hear a dramatic difference when I flip to the tape mode. Listen to the highs, about 1 7/8. Hear the difference? And of course, I've put the echo on this, and it'll be a really long echo. Pause it. It'll just fade out slowly. And the reason that the echo time is longer is, of course, the tape is moving slower, so it takes longer to get from the record head to the play head, and then loop back to the record head, and so forth. And we're losing a generation every time it goes, but it'll just keep going there for a while. Hours of fun with one of these machines, I tell you. Okay, let's I think the mechanism is working okay, so now I'm going to rewind the tape here, and we're going to put the cover back on here. And then I can test it some more with the proper tape guides in place. But I think this one here is pretty much done. Demagnetize the heads, clean the heads, haven't done that yet, but this one here is pretty much restored. And this one was a little more involved than the other one because in addition to the bearing here being seized up, or it wasn't seized up but it was getting there, of course the capstan bearing was seized up on here. These rollers here were seized up as well. They weren't in the greatest of shape. The bearings were all gummed up on this one. A lot more grease dried up on this one than on the other ones, that's for sure. You can tell how long this thing's been sitting because look at the counterbelt, right? There's nothing wrong with the counterbelt other than it's got a couple flat spots where it was parked, where it went around the pulley. So that'll clear up. The same with this one here. You can see the rewind belt here. Where it was sitting on the pulley for many years, it has kind of taken on a shape of the pulley. But with use, that'll clear that up, no problem. Here we go. And then it stops. So let's put the cover on it and try it out again. So the cover goes on just exactly how it came off. Oops, gotta put my little button in there for my fast forward. Wherever I did with that, it's over here somewhere. Fast forward button. Have to get my instant stop and release lined up. There we go. That's pretty much got it. Okay, controls are going back on. Okay, now the unit's back together. We'll thread the tape up. You'll see what I mean about the tape going around the tape guides here, because you're going to pull it like this and it goes around these tape guides like this, right? Oops, sorry, missed that one. It goes around that tape guide like that, right? Because these are out of the way. That's how the tape is threaded. And then if I start it up, so we're going to rewind this tape here. I'm going to demagnetize and clean the heads on this, and then I'm going to be done with this one. That'll end this informative video that has gone on far too long and probably should be done in 2 parts. Okay, head's clean. Get the home built demagnetizer out of here. Demagnetizer is on. I seem to have a bit of an issue here. This is not closing this one down all the way, so I'm just going to bend this little tab back here a bit because it's not lowering this down as far as I think it should. That's a bit better. I'd like to see this tape pad a little lower than that, so we'll just kind of bend that out of the way. Oops. Here, that's better. Stand up, eyes shut.
wishing I was sleeping in. Don't know how I do it, but somehow I do it every day. Just the same. Get dressed, feel a mess, shuffle through the same routine. White tee, blue jeans, looking at me beckoning. Get myself together, come whatever, just like yesterday and every other day. As I rush by, with a smile, bus stop, no stop. Everybody's getting in, left, right, squeeze tight. Here's a 9 to 5 again. Just another day, but today I'm gonna make a change, break the chain. Made my mind up, this is something special. Take the ordinary, gonna make it monumental. Life is what you make it, making lemons into lemonade. Ain't it great? As I rush by the window, catches my eye and just gets through smiling back at me. So today, no matter what comes my way, turn it into something I can celebrate. I'm gonna give the whole world a shake with a smile. And there's nothing that can knock me down. I'm gonna take whatever comes around.
There we go. It's all done. Probably spill if I stop this. Yeah, a little bit, because of course the larger reel won't stop quite as fast, but it's in good shape. And when it hits the end, it should automatically stop the motor, which it does. Thanks for watching.